outside, but if you can get them out of your bed ahead of time, it will give you a better time because this thing won't be trying to like jump around when it hits them.
I'm surprised more people from our class aren't here. Are you?
And then your other question, the other, this one is
kind of open to whatever happens a lot of times.
Especially everybody would be here. Every single person who is applying, who's going to be applying, would be
I'll
here.
tell you before I get started here, this can be used in two different directions. You can either walk behind it so that you're following the BCS. A lot of the students over on our site in Waimanalo, they like to reverse the handlebars and put it on this side of the BCS because it makes it significantly easier to maneuver the machine because you have a better mechanical advantage with the leverage of being able to push down on the handlebars to lift it up instead of having to actually lift the handlebars to get this off the ground.
But because you have the counterweight, it works.
It makes it much easier with the counterweight. My partner Haley, she does not like to use this in that orientation, even with the counterweight though. It's just a little bit kind of unruly in general. So yeah, we're gonna fire this up, and maybe I'll do about half the bed, and then I'll switch the handlebars around so you guys can see it run the other way. I'm gonna take the handlebars and move to the side so I'm not walking to the back.
Gear shifter?
Not sure. That simple. If I had done what I was describing earlier with all those tools, it would have taken me probably 30 minutes to get this result. So, and this would be completely ready to seat into with the Jang seater, which will be the next thing that we kind of take a peek at, and you'll be able to see how it responds to this bed. But yeah, you guys have any questions, or you think of anything else I can show with it? Or?
I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, you know, it's kind of like that one implement does one thing, you know. The BCS has so many implements like we're talking about. So you could take this grass and you could put the tiller on there. You could put a disc, disc tiller or whatever you would say, and kind of like mound it up, you know, drive it along one side, throw the dirt over, drive it on the other side, throw the dirt over. Then you can, you know, kind of use a regular tiller over that to like make it nice and smooth. And then you run this over here just like this, and you know, now you're ready for your greens planting more or less. So like, you know, you can kind of stack these things on, but this is a very specialized, you know, this is kind of all it does. But really worthwhile. Look how beautiful that is. Imagine, you know, and you can even see, you know, where the greens haven't come in as well, what we've been able to do without it using the tiller and stuff like that. It's pretty good, but it's nothing compared to this, how nice and smooth it is. So so it's really worthwhile.
And you can see it does a really good job at pulling out all kinds of weeds. That tilter that I was talking about, a lot of the time it'll hit them and it'll just push them under the soil surface. This one tends to just rip them out because of the motion that the blades have down in there. Sometimes we'll turn a bed over and we won't be ready to plant into it right away. And if it's been raining or if we had weeds germinate, I'll just come out because it's so fast and so easy to do. I'll just run over the bed once more just before I go to plant because it preps the soil surface so nicely right at the time you need it.
You mean with the Harrow or the tiller?
With the
tilter.
Harrow.
With the Harrow.
With
Okay.
the Harrow, yeah. I'm using the tilter less and less just because it's nice if let's say I had one bed that I needed to deal with, then I just use that tilter. But if I've stacked up like 5 or more beds, then this is just hands down a lot easier to do. I guess that's the one downside of it, is that it's heavy, it's kind of cumbersome to use, and so if you have this stored inside of like a storage container locked up on one side of your farm, and you only have one bed that you need to use it for, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, and so I'll kind of go like, I'm gonna wait until this day and I want to do multiple beds at the same time, because going over there, grabbing it, getting it out here, using it in the field, putting it away, or washing it and then putting it away is a process where if I've just got one little section that I go, oh, I just need to tune this up, I'll just grab my tilter. That thing weighs like 25 pounds or something, and I can just carry it out to the field and just go and be done with it. So yeah, advantages and disadvantages from each tool, but once you're doing enough stuff, these are almost indispensable for the time savings that you get from them.
Yeah, I mean, think if you had to do this whole little thing, and it's not a lot of space here, but if you had to do it all by hand versus running this thing up and down it once or twice, you know, huge time saver.
And that tilter again, you said was drill powered.
Drill powered, yeah. And it's a little bit more temperamental. If the soil is too dry and chunky, it'll just bounce through the field and just add a ton of time to your work, and you'll never get the results that you're looking for out of it. And this one will just power through those clods. If it's too chunky and dry, it's not going to be as smooth as this, but it'll do a good job at getting you part of the way there until the rain or your overhead watering can break the soil down a little further.
And when are you how applying the soil amendments?
When am I doing that? Basically, I apply those with every bed flip, and so after I terminate my crop and remove any kind of like weeds or plant matter that I think will grow back, I'll put the amendments on at that time, and then I'll follow it with that, and that'll be the last thing that I do to the bed before planting. We try to keep everything pretty tight. The sooner you can plant in after terminating your last crop, the less time you have to waste on the bed, because if you do that turnover process and then you don't get around to it for a few days, a lot of conditions can change and your soil can become more compacted again. So
What tool are you using to turn over your bed?
So the main thing that I use for like terminating the crops is just a wheel hoe. So it's, you know, like a hula hoe, stirrup hoe. It's basically that, except for it's got dual handles and a wheel on the front of it, and you can get them anywhere from like 4 to 12-inch wide blades. And so if I'm terminating like a crop of salad like this, the way that we used to do it is especially with arugula, we would cover it with a piece of black plastic. As long as the soil's moist, that will break down really fast, and there'll be almost no sign that you've had arugula there previously within 10 days. We like to turn our beds and keep our field going a lot more consistently with that than that, so we don't do the plastic anymore. And so if I came to this crop when I was all done with it, I'd do my harvest and I'd determine if that was going to be my last harvest or not. If it was, I'd take that same day when we finish our harvest and pack and wash, I'd take that wheel hoe and I'd come out and I'd undercut this by about an inch, and then that'll terminate all of it, and it'll give it time to break down until I do all my bed flips a couple days later. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Oh, we got a question back here.
Question. It sounds like you like to push it instead of pull.
Yeah.
What are the advantages of pushing?
Once you kind of get used to the machine, I find it to be a little bit more controllable that way. So everything pivots from the tires or the wheels on the BCS tractor. When you're on top of a bed, especially a raised bed, this is a pretty nice low flat bed, not particularly raised. So what you saw was like almost perfect conditions for this to go. But if you have a raised bed that's got a bit of a crown, the BCS will have this tendency to, if you get too close to one edge of it, the tires will start to erode the side of the bed and it'll try to roll off the side. I find it to be significantly easier to manipulate and adjust that if I'm standing on the back side of the BCS, because I can kind of push it and move it around. When you're at the other end, you're kind of at the mercy of that big lever that you're working with, and you end up swinging the power harrow behind it, and so your bed gets all wavy and wiggly while you're trying to adjust. So I just get a straighter, better result by going on the back side of it.
And also safety, you know, walking backwards versus walking forwards. You know, you're on the farm, you know,
For sure.
might be uneven and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Let's go back in and get some shade. We'll tuck chain cedar, and I'll change this implement over to continue us on.